Well, I think it will have to. I mean, I think the problem is that as long as we are there, especially now after 9 years, we've created a signature, which is military occupation, and caused thousands of deaths. And for us to change direction, we need to change direction, but I don't see how we can sort of change our stripes and be seen as something different. But I agree with your basic premise. There needs to be a major commitment to social economic development. But it can't be done through the U.S. military. I think we should be there. Americans should be there, and American dollars should be there. But predominantly and gradually, completely civilian. I was telling Jim at lunch, we've done some research on, what programs are working. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom, and especially in terms of trying to protect the rights of women in Afghanistan. And there are some very positive achievements. For example, in education, and I'll just offer a little bit of data here. In 2001, there were 900,000 boys going to school, no girls. Today, there's 7.3 million boys and girls. 37% are girls. On healthcare, life expectancy in Afghanistan is about the worst in the world. Maternal mortality rates are the worst in the world. It's just horrendous. But there are slight improvements now. Midwives were looked down upon by the Taliban. Now there's thousands of trained midwives who've gone through schooling and are available to help mothers, newborns, and in that critical period of birth and early infancy. And so we're starting to see now the infant mortality and maternal mortality rates are going down. And there are other things I could go into. These are all positive improvements. But these programs have come entirely through civilian funding from the World Bank, European Union, USAID has been involved very much, the United Nations, and various other donor states. Hundreds of millions of dollars a year are being spent on these programs. And most of them are succeeding. Schools, some schools are being bombed and acid being thrown at the girls and the teachers. But other schools, most schools are continuing and prospering. And it looks like the primary factor that accounts for the difference is the schools in which the communities are engaged. The communities help to build them. Greg Mortenson's program. Greg Mortenson doesn't come in and build schools for people. He helps bring the materials, but the communities have to build the schools and they have to help organize it, and it has to be their school. Under those conditions, the schools seem to survive. And the Taliban has to depend on community support. They can't operate without community support against foreign forces or against their own armed forces in Afghanistan. So if the community wants the school, they have to go with it, even though they may have a very different view on education. Yeah, the programs need to be there, but and we need to continue to support it. Those dollars need to come at large numbers, and our civilian people should be there to help. But as long as it's associated with the big military presence, it's not going to be successful.
David, to offer just a devil's advocate, some would say, and do say, as the first guest lecturer in this class, Mike has said since he was here in the Washington Post, he'd be all for these. He'd be all for what you're for, but until we achieve a certain level of military victory or success, we can't create the conditions under which the development can occur. So we have to first have enough military success to make all of this work. Mike Gerson would